Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to this Uni Taster Tuesday event, where today we're going to be exploring university courses in travel and tourism. So if you're interested in studying perhaps travel and tourism at university, you're at the right place, where we're going to provide you with a guide to what to expect on the course, perhaps reasons to consider studying travel and tourism as well. Now I'm delighted to say I'm joined today by Bev and Gurpal from Teesside University. Bev is a principal lecturer, and Bev's going to provide an academic angle to the event and really tell you what to expect on a travel and tourism program, and several reasons why you might consider travel and tourism, including during the current time, given the some of the current challenges we're seeing, which we'll be all aware of. And I'm delighted to say that we're also going to be joined today by Gurpal. Now Gurpal has just completed a travel and tourism program at Teesside University, and he's achieved a first degree classification, which in terms of marks is as good as it gets. And Gurpal's going to give you a student angle and talk about his experience on a travel and tourism course, and perhaps he might even touch on what he plans to go on to next, and reasons that he considered studying at travel and tourism at university as well. I'm always asked when we're running these events about recordings, and all events are recorded, so if you've got any friends or family members that would find this event really useful, do access the recordings after the event at UniTasterDays.com/Tuesdays, which is also how you can book all events, upcoming events, and we're running these events for the rest of the year. I'm very conscious that you've not tuned in to hear from me, you've tuned in to hear from our fantastic speakers, and I'm therefore delighted to introduce our first speaker. And Bev, while I'm doing so, do feel free to get your presentation ready. Bev Boden is joining us from Teesside University. Bev is a principal lecturer, and Bev will give you an overview to the programme. So without further ado, Bev, the floor is yours, please.
Thanks everyone. Thank you, John, and morning, Gurpal. Hope you're well. So it's a real pleasure to be invited to this session today. And as John mentioned, my name is Bev, and I'm a principal lecturer at Teesside University in the wonderful Tees Valley in the northeast of England. And I am really passionate about travel and tourism because many years ago, I have been where you are now, looking for a course, looking for that little bit of inspiration, and making a right choice. University is a really big decision to make, so it's really important that not only you choose the right course, which we'll talk about the options that are out there and available for you, but also that you choose the right institution and a place that you feel confident and comfortable in learning. So without further ado, I will talk you through some experiences of travel and tourism in this very uncertain world, and we'll talk a little bit about that also. Please feel free to contact me also if you would like any information with regards to just a general chat about travel and tourism and aviation, and also you would be able to use the hashtag as well. So why, this presentation will go through a couple of things, and we'll talk about why study travel and tourism at university. A lot of my students get asked that a lot in terms of, well, do you need a degree to be cabin crew? Why would you want to be a travel agent? I didn't think you needed a degree to be a rep. And all of those things are very stereotypical of a thriving industry. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll touch on a guide to university courses in terms of travel and tourism and what to expect. As I just mentioned, it's really important that you take time in choosing the right course and the right institution, because now there is just so much choice out there in the field of travel and tourism. And we'll talk about something really exciting, which is the careers that you can embark on in this wonderful industry. So why study this subject area? Of anything that you could study, why travel and tourism? Well, actually, a lot of economies rely on solely travel and tourism income to form their GDP. And hopefully, if you're studying travel and tourism at the moment at college, you'll appreciate the importance of that. So many areas globally solely rely on tourism. So if you think of London Heathrow Airport pre-pandemic, and how many passengers would be embarking on a flight to travel to New York, there could be up to 6 departures within a couple of hours of each other. And that requires a huge workforce of people to assist passengers who may be less mobile, for example, to fuel the aircraft, to provide a meet and greet service for first class passengers, and to serve a Starbucks, for example, in the terminal. So this is a huge sector. Okay, and we're not just talking about a small seaside resort that is relying on tourists to visit the resort perhaps during the months of April and October. Some destinations like Dubai, for example, are solely reliant on the tourists spending their pound. So if you study travel and tourism, you learn about different destinations, ecological aspects. Some degrees offer that particular side of things, sustainability, environmental factors, and you learn about terrorism on some tourism courses, and how to mitigate risk for holidaymakers. You learn about emerging trends, what's popular, what's not. ABTA and the Association of British Travel Agents, which I would urge you all to follow if you're on social media, they produce an annual report every year. And actually this year's annual report is very much about Brexit because it was written pre-pandemic. But next year's report will very much be about the pandemic and how that's changed the way we travel and where we go. And so you learn about those things, emerging trends. One thing I remember learning about when I studied travel and tourism many years ago at college and then went on to university to study travel and tourism was customers. Customers are very, very complex creatures, and you learn by studying a travel and tourism degree how to deal with those tricky customers and those difficult situations. And we'll talk about that in just a moment, because it's not just about acquiring the all-important knowledge and theoretical principles of travel, tourism, leisure and aviation. It's about having the skills and the resilience to deal with people who spend an awful lot of money on a product. So their expectations of that service are very, very high. Consumers, customers, walk into a travel agency and they walk out with very little. They could have spent thousands of pounds and walk out with an invoice because they don't live that experience until they've actually experienced it themselves. So the whole booking a holiday, the whole picking up a phone or using the website is all about that consumer experience, and you learn very much about that from the business resilience angle on a lot of degrees that are offered by universities today. So a couple of other things in terms of why study travel and tourism. Well, you can hopefully get it's coming across that I'm extremely passionate about this area. I've had many, many opportunities working for a lot of global brands. And that has served me very, very well to now be able to pass on my knowledge in a university setting. So applying all of those vocational things that you learn in industry and all of the academic things that I learned when I was studying at college and university. So it's absolutely fascinating. And one of the things about travel and tourism and earning a degree in travel and tourism is that it resonates with lots of global sectors, because it proves that you can work with lots of different people, lots of different cultures in different areas of the world. I worked in Spain, not for a very long time because it wasn't for me when I was a resort rep, but I was very, very young and I worked for a global brand at the time, but I realised very, very quickly that I had to build up that resilience in order to deal with some very difficult customers. But at the same time, I learned a second language as well. I'm not so good at it now, but at the time I was in that space and I had the opportunity to learn it, and I needed to deal and help with customers. So whether you're working for one of the big travel companies, as I say, which I had the opportunity to do, and my degree paved the way in helping me do that. Because remember, getting a degree shows your commitment and your passion to your own career prospects and the sector as well. But you could choose to join a restaurant chain, a hotel group. We've had a lot of students at Teesside that have gone on to do that. But it makes you an attractive candidate across the board. I mean, one of the first jobs that I had when I gained my degree was I went to work in London, and I worked for a huge tour operator in London, and I was presented with so many opportunities because I had a degree, and I'm confident that I was presented with a team leader position almost immediately because I had a degree. Many travel and tourism graduates will actually eventually go on to run and own and manage their own businesses. We're actually seeing that a lot because a lot of degrees in travel and tourism are part of what we call a faculty of business or a school of business. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a principal lecturer for a business school or within a business school because actually it is a business type degree. And you learn about management skills, leadership skills, the traits that are needed to manage difficult members of staff, for example, and to work with fantastic members of staff and allow them to excel in their roles so the organisation can achieve its vision, its mission and its goals. And that's very much what the travel industry is about. Just let me share with you this picture here if you're thinking, who are these people who are at a training facility? When you study travel and tourism, and I'll mention a couple more examples in just a moment, you usually are provided with a whole heap of opportunities to visit places like British Airways, Virgin Atlantic. You get the opportunity, or some universities collaborate with ground handling agents such as Swissport. So for some courses, you'll get the opportunity to experience what it's like to walk in the shoes of cabin crew, for example. And here we've got a group of students who have studied a degree with us recently, who went down the slide and did the safety drills for British Airways one day. So it gives you many options, as we've discussed, and the image here is just a little bit of fun. Here we have somebody working on a check-in desk, which is also something that I did, not for a very long time, but I did do it. And the reason why I'm saying not for a very long time is because a lot of the jobs in travel and tourism tend to be seasonal, and usually you get given an opportunity to get kept on if you're great, or if you want to stay on and perhaps progress within the business. But this image is quite fun because you see a passenger service agent here telling everybody to calm down and wait, and passengers are irate. But I loved that aspect of the job. I love dealing with difficult customers because there's nothing better than winning over a customer through following the policy of the organisation, but just being nice and trying to help customers. And that's very much what the travel and tourism industry is about. And that's what we look for in great graduates as well. So you'll pick up sets of skills like currency fluctuations, volume buying, bulk buying, supply chain management, and event planning. All of these things are skills that you will acquire studying a degree in travel and tourism. And the wider skills which make travel and tourism so valuable in having in terms of at degree level are things like accounting management, financial management, budgeting. They're all important now, needed more than ever. Business resilience. I teach a module called strategy, and if you're thinking, why on earth, I'm studying travel and tourism, why on earth would I need to know about strategy? Well, every travel and tourism organisation has a strategy. Why do they need that? Why do they need that forward plan? Because the sector is so competitive. Okay, I mentioned earlier about how many passengers would now be at Heathrow waiting to embark on a flight. It could be Emirates flying there, American Airlines, it could be British Airways flying there, it could be KLM. So what makes those airlines stand out and be different? And usually it's the workforce, it's the people. There are a few other subjects, in my opinion, and I'm sure if there's any other academics and college lecturers watching this now and in the future, you'll definitely agree with this third point. There are very few other subjects that give you those key transferable skills. So not only are you get the academic knowledge that helps you underpin all of these things like marketing policy and strategy and business resilience, but you will learn along the way these transferable skills that actually some degrees in terms of dealing with people, problem solving, don't do. So just to give you an overview in terms of the guide to university courses that you can actually apply to. Now, what I would say here is this comes with a little bit of a caveat. There are so many travel, tourism, leisure, hospitality, aviation, air management courses out there, okay? And there are different levels and there are different titles as well, okay? So most institutions, higher education institutions, will offer or may offer what they call a foundation degree. And a foundation degree is a programme that I've taught on for many, many years. And I've wrote several in my time as well as an academic. And these are great courses, absolutely great courses, and they last 2 years. And you will be awarded with a level 5 qualification, a foundation degree. And those degrees can be in travel and tourism, aviation and tourism, events management, and popular visitor attraction management as well. Now, a foundation degree doesn't come with the thing called honours. And when you're looking at degrees, you'll notice that the honours is often in brackets. So you'll become a Bachelor of Arts with honours. Okay, and quite often what we find is students who study foundation degrees for 2 years might be happy, they've gained 2 years academic knowledge and they go into industry. But some students like to do what we call a top-up degree. And I teach and I've taught on many top-up degrees. I currently teach on a top-up degree in airline and airport management at Teesside and also travel and tourism management at Teesside. But these are widely offered in lots of institutions up and down the country. So you can top up your foundation degree and you can gain a BA Hons in any of those disciplines. And this is just an example of some of them with honours. So at a foundation degree, it's pass, merit, distinction. Okay, and obviously the distinction grades are the best grades that you can get. And if you do a top-up degree, which is a 1-year programme, you can get a second-class degree and a first. Okay, so all of those descriptors are available on the UCAS website and indeed the university websites that you apply to. But this is just to give you a little bit of a flavour. What's become quite popular in recent years is students doing what we call a foundation year. And this degree, it might seem like a life sentence, but a degree can go very, very quickly. So some institutions within the UK are offering what we call a BA Hons degree in travel and tourism, aviation or events management, for example, but with a foundation year. So this degree is very appealing to perhaps those students that didn't do as well as they thought they would have in their A-levels, but are still wanting to progress to university. So you do the first year a foundation year, so it's the building blocks to learning theoretical models. It is a step up from an A-level. I mean, it is a level 3. You start at level 3 entry, but it is much more academic, I would say, from my experience teaching students on a foundation year. So let's say you've got your level 6 degree, you've got a full honours degree in whichever kind of route that you've taken. You could then even, if you wanted to, study a level 7 degree. You could do a Master of Science degree, for example, something that I did in international management that really interested me because I was very, very keen to learn about culture and how organisations trade with each other. But there are lots of master's degrees out there in travel, tourism and aviation. That can be 1 year or it can be over 2 years. And again, at level 7, it tends to be pass, merit or distinction. Please don't be shocked by this next slide, but you could even, if you're really thinking about your future, of what you want to do is do a PhD. You could become a Doctor of Philosophy, which is a level 8 qualification in something like thanatology. And you're thinking, what on earth is that? Well, it's dark tourism or the study of death. And why am I telling you this? It's because it's something that I'm currently doing and enjoying. And some of you may have seen programs such as The Devil Next Door on Netflix. Some of you may have seen programmes such as Schindler's List, films such as Schindler's List, and also recently Chernobyl on Sky's HBO. And these are all new forms of tourism. Dark tourism is a real taboo topic, but it's a really contemporary emerging field. And actually on some degrees that I teach on currently, you do modules on dark tourism study. So that's about thinking very, very, very long term in terms of the options that you can study in terms of travel and tourism. So you're probably thinking, why on earth do courses in travel and tourism, why are there so many course titles? And it's because every course is unique. Every institution is also unique. Some are very traditional, some are very contemporary and modern. And it's a real kind of minefield, but that's why it's important you listen to podcasts like this, you engage with a little bit of research, and you make really good informed decisions. In terms of travel and tourism, I've put this second bullet point on because what you tend to find in travel and tourism is certain courses emphasise on a specific area. So when you're looking for a course, if it is perhaps travel, tourism and aviation, that particular course might be within the proximity, for example, of an airport, because some universities, as I mentioned earlier, might collaborate perhaps with a ground handling agent to allow students to access the facilities and perhaps work experience there as well. So be mindful of that also. Some courses are much more theoretical than others. As I mentioned earlier, if they have that kind of environmental scientific aspect to it, which some travel and tourism courses do. Some travel and tourism courses offer BSc, a Bachelor of Science, and those qualifications that I've taught on as well, those tend to be a little bit more scientific. So there's a science aspect and perhaps an economic aspect to it as well. Some courses include a placement year, which is fantastic. That's something that I did at Durham. I went on to do a placement year many, many years ago. I don't know whether they offer it now. And I alluded to the fact that I went abroad as well. And some courses are taught within a college environment. For example, foundation degrees may be taught within a college environment. And now what we're seeing is some colleges are actually offering the full honours degrees as well. But it really depends on if you want to make the break from college, if you want to try something new, if you want to be in a much bigger campus environment, because universities tend to be much bigger campuses. Some courses offer specialist resources. So what we're seeing in the travel and tourism sector now is that a lot of institutions have specialist technology to be able to kind of accommodate the vocational aspect. So some colleges are really cool in terms of offering a bespoke cabin for students to conduct role plays, for it to feel like a real sim, a simulation that you would embark on if you were doing cabin crew training, for example. So have a look at the institution websites and get a real feel for how that institution is investing in that particular course as well, because that's really important. You'll learn in different ways, and travel and tourism is very much about experiential learning. And what we mean by this is learn by doing. So here are a couple of examples of some trips of student visits that I've taken students on in the last couple of years. And you're probably thinking, wow, this looks really exciting. It's actually fun, but it's really cold, particularly if you go to an airport in the winter, because airports often want to accommodate us more in the winter because they're a lot quieter for some regional airports in particular. But what a better way to learn than actually doing it and walking in the shoes of a ramp agent, for example, meeting the pilot, meeting the crew, speaking to the person that pushes back the aircraft, speaking to the person that works with customers in the terminal. And it's quite inspiring as well. Some universities are better than others at doing this, and simply because, from my experience, they are perhaps close to that facility. it's not a deal breaker if you don't get the opportunity to do this, because the internet is so great now in terms of sharing content. And although there are lots of students perhaps next to both of these aircraft right now, half of the students didn't go, but they didn't miss out. They were still able to learn by seeing content online. It's just a great example of how you can learn about the travel and tourism industry. Oh, sorry, go back. A lot of universities offer, in fact, most universities, I would go as far to say, offer some sort of trip or visit if you're studying travel and tourism. So the institutions that I've worked for, they have all offered a trip as part of the travel and tourism offer. But you must remember that not all trips are costed into course fees. They are at an additional cost to the student, and they are not part of the learning outcomes. And what do I mean by that? Well, you can still pass your assessment if you don't tend to go on some of these trips, but the benefits of going really are immense. So I was planning to take students to Auschwitz, Birkenau, which is what my PhD is based on, dark tourism and the study and emotions of tourists that visit there. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because of the pandemic, but that's a great kind of trip, and I mean that in the educational sense, to show and see a fantastic attraction that deals with millions of tourists every year. And it's very, very cheap to get into. Again, we were taking students this year to Dubai to experience a fusion of cultures, new meets West, old meets West, for example. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, that didn't happen this year either. But it's a trip that I've done in the past, and it's been fantastic because students get the opportunity to go to the Emirates College, and they get the opportunity to go on a desert safari, meet Emiratis that live there, and get a bit of sun actually as well, and enjoy a really, really humid climate. One of the favourite trips that I've been on when I worked in a college and also in HEIs is a trip to the World Travel Market. Now, you as a student could actually go to the World Travel Market yourself. It's a global event. Anybody who's anybody has the opportunity to visit this great exhibition. So if you're studying events planning or events management as part of your travel and tourism degree, this is a brilliant opportunity to network, and you can get some cool business cards printed and you can give those out. You can talk to potential employers. A couple of years ago, I took a group here, and one particular student was really interested in doing a dissertation on 9/11. And the events of September 11th and how that's affected tourism. And actually that particular student was invited to the States to carry out a focus group, all because of the power of networking and having that confidence to speak to somebody. But the World Travel Market is fantastic. And another trip that is becoming quite popular with tourism degrees is Chernobyl. And I mentioned that earlier, and I've been to Chernobyl, and it's absolutely fascinating. And again, please, if it inspires you to see and do what this attraction is like, but you can actually go to the site of the world's worst nuclear disaster for €100 for a day, and it's absolutely apocalyptic. It's mind-blowingly brilliant, and it's a real mecca for tourism now. Who'd have thought it? But you guys, to be fair, probably weren't even born when that happened in 1986. So that's the fun side of it. But this is also fun too, because it's an opportunity for you to get to write up your findings, your knowledge, and show people how much you've learned. So yes, we go on trips if we study travel and tourism. Yes, it's very exciting. But at times it's really important to keep our feet on the ground and make sense of what we've seen and what we've experienced and apply those theoretical principles. So you'll be expected to write essays and reports, and if you're thinking, well, hang on, I thought they were the same. No, they're very different. But at university, we don't just leave you to it. There's a whole raft of support services that will be able to help you. Poster presentations, which are fun. Sales pitches like Dragon's Den, for example. You might do a live event, and exams. I'm going to mention the E word because some degrees still do exams. And I'm okay with that because I'm actually quite good at dealing with pressure in exams, but some students aren't. But the reason why I'm showing you this is because some students might be great at essays, not so good at exams, but then some students might excel in exams and not be great at essays. It's really important that you choose a degree with assessment methods that work for you, okay? Couple more slides, folks, and then I'll hand back over to Jon and Gurpal. And you're probably thinking, well, what's the point of studying travel and tourism now? We're in a global crisis because of coronavirus. It's extremely heartbreaking to read the headlines. They're grim every day for travel and tourism, I'm going to be brutally honest, and it makes for awful reading. But the one thing I would say about travel, tourism and aviation, it is extremely resilient, okay? It always bounces back. Why? Because travel, tourism and aviation affect every single one of us. So whether you are a day tripper to your local seaside resort, whether you're going to a spa, whether you're going to Jersey to visit friends and family, whether you're travelling for business, everybody needs travel, tourism and aviation. Now, we didn't think that the sector would be able to bounce back, but it is, and it is showing signs of recovery. Believe it or not, it really is. And I made reference earlier on to ABTA, the Association of British Travel Agents, and I'm an advocate of ABTA. I'm a member of ABTA and I believe in what they do. And they do need more government support, but they need people like you to study this area, to be future leaders, future managers who are the COVID generation who are living through this and then are able to apply what they've experienced to future business resilience and strategy models. So we're seeing signs of a comeback. It's a very different world that we live in. It's going to be very different for you as students studying travel and tourism, but it's going to be very different for consumers who spend an awful lot of money on a product as well. So we need your insight, we need your knowledge as Generation COVID. What is there not to like about travel tourism? And if you want an exciting career, here's just a couple of examples of some of the students I've had the privilege of teaching during my long career as an academic. So we've got students who've gone on to fly for Emirates, and not only fly for Emirates, but go on to work in their first class cabins. And that shows the skill and knowledge that they've acquired. We've got students that have gone on to be wedding planners and events managers. We've got another student who's gone on to get her wings flying for British Airways. And we've got students that have gone on to work for Swissport, the world's largest ground handling agent. Thank you very much for listening. The very best of luck with whatever it is you're studying at college. And I do hope to see you all again very soon. Thank you, Jon.
Thank you, Bev. That was exceptional. Really, really great introduction to travel and tourism. So I'm really grateful for that. Bev, there should be an option just on your screen, just to click stop share and it'll come back to me. Great stuff. And thanks again. Really, really, really good session. And I have to say that, when people say, why go to university and what are the benefits of university, one of the things I say is you're going to be taught by experts that have been there and done it. And what an interesting career. I bet we won't obviously do it, but I bet that map behind you, Bev, you've been to many of those countries, so you probably tick them off as you go through. So really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for your time. And if you're watching this live or the recording, really hope you found that session really, really handy. Our next speaker is Gurpal. Now, Gurpal's going to provide a student reflection to travel and tourism. He's just finished a travel and tourism course, and Bev touched on marks and degree classifications for things like foundation degrees and degrees, and she mentioned that first is as good as it gets, and Gurpal, I believe, attained a first. So that's incredible. And Gurpal's going to just provide an overview to studying travel and tourism, how he found it, etc. So without further ado, Gurpal, I'll pass the floor to you, please.
Thank you, Jon. Morning, Bev, and morning, everyone. I do hope you're well. So my name is Dulai, and I'm just going to share my screen to show you my experience of studying at Teesside University Business School. So, okay. So I achieved a first class honours and I focused many of my assignments on travel and tourism, and this is just going to be my experience of studying at the school. My journey so far is that in first year that I was very nervous with the number of people that saw on the course. And the reason for this is because I came from a very small school, sixth form, and what that means is that the class sizes were between 4 students and 12 students. So to walk into a lecture hall with over 100 students was very scary at first. But during the seminars, as time got on, I felt more comfortable. And this is partly to do with the seminars being with the same group of people almost. So I started to interact with them, we got more comfortable, we started talking, and it was much more better for me like that. But the one thing that I do regret is that I left my assignments till the last minute. So that means over Christmas, I had to write over 9,000 words. Probably not the best piece of advice, and I would never do that again. And I put on there, I really wish I engaged with the library services more, as Bev mentioned. There is loads of support outlet for students, like to help them to write an essay, write a report, and what's the difference between them both. Coming back in the second semester, I was much more supported by my friends, and we all realised that we're in the same boat and that we need to help each other, not like leave our assignments till the last minute, because it's not a good situation to be in. And also in the second semester, it was much more group work, much more practical based. One of my seminar tasks with Bev was actually to create a restaurant location, and I decided to focus on Teesside Airport because there was a piece of land next to it, and we were going to actually convert an aeroplane, make it into like a restaurant, have a glass bar, and it was going to be called Steaks on a Plane. So there's some experiential learning there. As I moved into second year, we had a new business school, and there was a new way of learning within that, more collaborative, more experiential learning. So it was finding my feet almost again. I was also a past leader. So this meant that I would have to, I would spend an hour a week with first year students, helping them on their assignments, any questions, have they got, and helping them settle into university life. And there is loads of support for them. There was also a jump between year 1 and year 2, and it really took me some time to understand and meet the level of expectations, because it was a much bigger jump than I thought it would have been. But I did manage to push through and get to there. Again, moving on to the second semester was much more practical based. I was working with actual live clients this time, and it really pushed me because there was stuff that I was doing, but I wasn't considering other options, such as sending an email, considering like a formal font, or using a signature, or making a signature, or even when we were answering the client's problem, using loads of different models to show our understanding, and even colors that we were just using. But as again, I was always supported throughout, and I was always given little hints and tips to focus on. So I would get, why don't you focus on this model, or have you considered using this, or research this and tell me what it means. And that just really pushed me and built up my confidence to the extent that I was able to apply for summer internships. I actually got 2 last year, and one was in a local business in Middlesbrough, and one was at the university, and I'm still at the university now. And they were just fantastic. I was able to apply all my learning into an organisation, and I knew that I made some real good changes. And then moving on to my third year, it was also another jump. There was also another jump in expectations there, but I was much more prepared because I knew what it was going to be like. I was talking to level 6 students, talking to lecturers, and I was able to fully prepare myself for what I was going to get into. And what I found, there was a lot more on my side. So it's what did I want to research? And I want to research digital marketing into tourism. I was able to do that and feed that into my assignments. And what I found was that a lot of assessments happened before Christmas, which was quite a lot of work, but I really liked it because it kept me really focused each week. And I just kept chipping away. When it came to Christmas, I had half my assessments done, which was lovely to have a bit of a relaxing Christmas this year. And I was able just to chip away at it even more and manage it through. So when it came to the second semester, I actually did most of my assignments, and so I was studying 1 module and my dissertation, which is worth 2 modules. I was able to chip away. But then we had the coronavirus and lockdown, and we're still living in it now. But I was really lucky that I had loads of academics who understood what we were going through. They understood that we needed time. And I do think during the start of the lockdown especially, there was almost this uncertainty, and it caused a lot of panic between students, and it was just nice to know that we were supported, we were given the space that we needed just to get over this initial panic when all the support was there. I think that's what I really liked. And it clearly benefited me because I got a first class honours in business, and I am really looking forward to start my digital marketing degree at Teesside University and hopefully focus on how travel and tourism links to digital marketing. Because when we go into a holiday, 37% of us think about our holidays months before, and we go through social media, we scroll through it, and I want to see what can make people tick even further. So thank you very much.